South Korean investigators have requested an extension to a warrant to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. Earlier, they asked police to take over the execution of the arrest warrant after failing to seize him following a 6-hour standoff on Friday. But police declined their request, citing legal reasons, instead saying they will work with investigators to carry out the arrest. The investigators want Mr. Yoon arrested for insurrection over his botched attempt to declare martial law last month. The court order is due to expire at midnight local time. Rival protesters both for and against President Yoon have been camping out since Friday, when the first attempt for his arrest was made. CNA's Lim Young-suk has more from Seoul.
Braving the cold winter, South Koreans supporting and opposing President Yoon Suk-yeol camped outside the presidential residence. Supporters say they will do all they can for their president, who they feel has been wrongly judged and impeached by parliament, like the last conservative president, Park Geun-hye, who too was impeached and removed from office in 2017.
지금 이 나라가 어떤 상황입니까? 8년 전에 저들은 죄도 없는 박근혜 대통령을 끌어내리고 또다시 윤 대통령을 끌어내리고 있습니다. 말도 안 되는 죄로 국가 수반이 비상계엄령이 문제가 아니잖아요. 근데 저들은 빨리 끌어내리고 공산주의 사회주의 가려고 하는 게.
But these demonstrators say he must be punished for a short-lived martial law declaration on December 3rd, and that the Constitutional Court, which is reviewing the impeachment motion passed by Parliament on December 14th, must reach a decision to uphold that motion as soon as possible.
이렇게 부당한 사회에 너무 순응하지 않고 저기서 반대 집회를 하고 있거든요. 꼭 저희 나라가 올바른 민주주의로 갈 수 있도록 모두가 힘을 맞췄으면 좋겠습니다.
While investigators are trying to arrest President Yoon on charges of insurrection for declaring martial law, political parties in parliament are clashing over the impeachment motion passed by lawmakers last month, after the main opposition Democratic Party on Friday decided to exclude insurrection charges as grounds for President Yoon's impeachment at the Constitutional Court. It says the revision was needed to expedite court proceedings. But the ruling People Power Party has criticized the move, saying the impeachment motion needs to be nullified for legal reasons and a new vote taken in Parliament.
국회에서 통과된 탄핵소추문을 보면은 첫 번째 문장에 내란 행위를 했다라는 표현이 나오고 내란이라는 말이 38번이나 나옵니다. 탄핵소추문의 중요 사실에 변경이기 때문에 만약 내란죄를 뺀다 그런다면은 탄핵소추는 성립할 수 없는 것입니다.
Mr. Kwon spoke to media outside the Constitutional Court, which held a meeting on Monday over the impeachment motion. The Constitutional Court made no mention of the changes during its briefing to reporters. But the main opposition party has denounced the ruling party for trying to delay the impeachment process.
결국 내란죄에서 벗어난 것처럼 우겨 내란 공범임을 숨기고 내란 수괴를 비호하려는 의도 아닙니까? 국민은 바보가 아닙니다. 국민의힘은 더 이상 국민을 시험에 들게 하지 마십시오.
Meanwhile, surveys show President Yoon's approval ratings have improved since he was impeached. One poll showed his approval rating at 40% after falling to as low as 17% following his martial law declaration in early December. The Constitutional Court is scheduled to hold its first oral arguments on January 14th. It's unclear if President Yoon will attend in person. Lim Young-suk, CNA, Seoul.
Earlier, we spoke to Dr. Jae Song, Adjunct Associate Professor at the Career Research and Engagement Center of Curtin University, as she weighed in on how the political situation in South Korea could evolve in the coming days.
It's likely that the anti-corruption agency, the investigators, will hand over the power, the authority of the arrest to the police, who has probably a more proper and adequate forces to involve to the second attempt to arrest the impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. But the interesting thing, I was looking at some public polls in South Korea. The president's party, the ruling party, People's Power Party, PPP, is actually gaining support. Their approval rate, the support rate is actually going up. So it means that President Yoon's his legal team's approach and strategy to involve the public campaign has been working. President Yoon himself has been watching YouTube and actually sending letters to his supporters who are far-right activists. And it seems to be working that he's gathering his people around. And it's also very striking because we've already seen what happened in Washington 4 years ago, 2021. We've seen the Capitol riot. Trump is instigating his supporters to gather around to support him. And he's re-elected, we have seen. So maybe Yoon's attempt or the strategy is an inspiration from Trump's re-election. And he's just following his suit that he can probably get away. He believes that he can get away with the martial law, which was unconstitutional. But still, the South Korean public, they are the majority of the population is in support of Yoon's impeachment. And along with the police and the prosecutors in the investigation, there's also a constitutional court ruling over the impeached motion by the National Assembly. So we'll have to see that that's happening in the coming weeks or two. It's very how can I say, the frustrating and disappointing time for South Korea for the new year, because there has been a political vacuum. At the moment, the country is in charge of the second acting president, who used to be the finance minister. But he also seems to be lacking the political will to give support for the investigators to execute those arrest warrants. He's because he used to be hired and recruited by President Yoon, so he's sort of caught in the middle and doesn't really know what to do. So he's not really playing an active role in this.
Dr. Song, you talk about a political vacuum, but still, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken chooses South Korea as his possible final stop as U.S. top diplomat. And he's pushing for policy stability and also to address South Korea's relationship with Japan. And in the last 2 hours, we saw some polite language exchanged between the two parties. Do you foresee concrete outcomes in the face of the country's crisis and the U.S. presidential transition?
Probably not so much at this time. Trump will be the next president in a few weeks' time, and he's already expressed that he wants to withdraw some U.S. troops from South Korea. So we don't really expect the Trump administration will play a bigger role in regional stability, including the Korean Peninsula.